In the small village of Omunedi, there lived a boy named Kalu. He was the oldest of three children. Kalu's family was very, very poor. So poor that sometimes they didn't know where their next meal would come from. Kalu's tummy often rumbled as he walked to school. He would look longingly at the other children's lunch boxes, wishing he had something to eat too. Sometimes, kind classmates would share a bit of their food with him, while others would make mockery of him. Kalu, you are always begging for food. Can't your parents make food and give you to bring to school? Longer throats, stop begging us for food because we will not give you any food, poor boy, the children would say. Even at home, Kalu's mother would sigh as she looked at her children's worn-out clothes. Oh, my children, all your clothes are torn. We must go see if our neighbors have any clothes they can spare. So, off they would go, knocking on doors and asking politely, "Do you have any old clothes we could use, please?" Some neighbors were kind, while others turned away with a frown. One day, as Kalu and his siblings were walking home with a bag of hand-me-downs, they heard some children laughing. "Look, it's the Beggy Beggy family," one boy shouted. "They are so poor, they probably eat air for dinner," another one said. Kalu felt his cheeks burn with shame, but then he stood up straight and tall. He looked at the mean boys and said, "We may not have much, but we have love, and that's worth more than all the money in the world." The boys were shocked into silence, and Kalu's younger siblings looked at him with pride. As they continued walking, Kalu's little sister tugged on his sleeve. "Brother Kalu, will we always be this poor?" she asked. Kalu smiled at her and said, "I don't know, Mama, but I promise you this. One day, I'll work hard and make sure we never go hungry again." That night, as the family gathered together in their small hut, the children were complaining of hunger. Thinking of how to distract them since there was no food, Kalu's father told a funny story about a greedy hyena who tried to eat the moon and other funny stories. The children laughed so hard that they almost forgot about their empty stomachs. But the youngest child, Amara, kept on crying for food, to the point that their mother had to go to the back of their hut to crack open some dried palm nuts and brought them to her with a cup of water so she could have something in her stomach. As Kalu drifted off to sleep, he dreamt of a future where his family had plenty to eat and wear. He didn't know how, but he was determined to make that dream come true, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. As the years passed, Kalu grew into a strong young man of 17. Every day, he would wake up before the sunrise, his muscles aching from the previous day's work. "Kalu, my son," his father would say, his voice filled with both pride and worry. "Don't work too hard. You are still young. It is a pity that I can no longer do much after the accident that crippled my legs. But your mother is trying her best with the dry pepper she sells, and you have never shied away from helping out in the home. Please don't overwork yourself, my son. I know that one day our situation will change for the better." But Kalu would smile and reply, "Don't worry, Papa. I'm strong enough. I can no longer watch my younger ones go to bed without food like we used to." And so Kalu would spend long hours under the scorching sun, tilling other people's farms, planting their crops, and tending to their animals. His hands grew calloused, and his skin darkened under the hot sun. At the end of each exhausting day, he would return home with a small payment, just enough to buy some food for his family. One evening, as Kalu walked home after working for people, he saw his younger siblings playing in the dust. Their clothes were still torn and looked more like rags. He felt a heavy weight in his chest. Is this all there is to life? He muttered to himself. I work so hard, and yet we can barely survive. Papa and Mama are trying their best, but we cannot seem to live beyond getting enough to eat. I cannot keep on doing this. I must find a way out. I must help my mother, and one day, those that laughed at us will look up to us, he finished. That night, as the family sat around their small fire, Kalu's mother noticed the dark look on his face. What troubles you, my son? She asked gently. Kalu sighed deeply. Mama, I work and work, but we still struggle. There must be a better way to make money, to give us all a better life. His father looked concerned. Kalu, honest work is always the best way, my son. But Kalu's eyes flashed with determination. I know, Papa, but I've made up my mind. I'm going to find a way to make more money, no matter what it takes. His siblings looked at him with wide eyes, a mix of excitement and worry on their faces. They had never heard their usually calm and hardworking brother speak like this before. But how, Brother Kalu? Amara, his younger sister, asked. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. I promise you all, things will change. We won't be the poorest family in Umunedi forever, he said. As he lay awake that night, Kalu's mind raced with possibilities. He knew the path ahead might be difficult and even dangerous, but the thought of lifting his family out of poverty drove him forward. Kalu made up his mind to leave the village and go to the city. Perhaps there were better opportunities for him in the city than here in the village. His heart raced as he quietly packed his few belongings in the dead of the night. He scribbled a quick note to his family, promising to return when he had made something of himself. With a heavy heart but determined spirit, he slipped away from the sleeping village of Umunedi. The journey to the city was long and tiring. Kalu hitched rides on the backs of trucks, walked for miles, and slept under the bridge. Finally, after days of travel, he arrived in the bustling city of Lagos. The tall buildings and endless sea of people both excited and terrified him. Wow, he whispered, his eyes wide with wonder. This is where I'll make my fortune. But the city wasn't the land of opportunity Kalu had imagined. He wandered the streets, hungry and lost, looking for work or a friendly face. Instead, he caught the attention of a group of rough-looking young men. Hey, village boy, one of them called out. You look lost. Do you need some help? Yes, please. I'm looking for work, Kalu said, relieved to find someone talking to him. Oh, we know just the place, one of the bad boys said with a grin that should have warned Kalu. They led him down towards the bush, and before Kalu knew what was happening, they turned on him. They beat him up so mercilessly before stealing the little possession he hung on his back. That will teach you not to trust strangers, village boy. They laughed as they left him bruised and bleeding in the bush. Kalu managed to drag his badly wounded body to the road, where he stood, trying to stop vehicles to help him. As he stood there, with tears mixing with blood on his face, he whispered, I'm sorry, Mama, Papa, I've made a terrible mistake. After standing for a while, with no one willing to help him, Kalu slumped to the ground. But as he was beginning to lose consciousness, he heard a kind voice and felt gentle hands lifting him. "Oh, you poor boy, what happened to you?" Through swollen eyes, Kalu saw a middle-aged man with a concerned face looking down at him. My name is Kalu. Please help me, sir," he managed to say before passing out. When Kalu woke up, he found himself in a clean white room. The kind-faced man was sitting beside his bed. "Welcome back, Kalu," the man said with a warm smile. "I'm Julius. You are safe now, and you are in the hospital." Kalu tried to sit up, but winced in pain. "The hospital? But I can't pay." Julius pushed him back down. "Don't worry about that. I've taken care of it. Now, why don't you tell me your story?" As Kalu began to share his tale, he felt a mix of shame and relief. He had come to the city to make his fortune, but instead, he had found kindness in a stranger when he needed it most. Little did Kalu know that this chance encounter with Julius would change the course of his life forever. As he rested in the hospital bed, he wondered what would happen next and if he would ever see his family again. After he was discharged from the hospital, Julius took Kalu to his home and offered him a room in his boys' quarters. He also asked Kalu to become one of his apprentices at his automobile spare parts shop. Kalu served Julius with everything in him. He always reported to the shop earlier than anyone else, and not for once did he cheat in the business. Julius, who was impressed by Kalu's honesty and hard work at his automobile shop for the 6 years he had served him, grew fond of him. One day, he called Kalu into his office. "Kalu," Julius said, his kind eyes twinkling, "you've proven yourself to be trustworthy and hardworking. I would like to help you start your own business here." Kalu's heart raced with excitement, but then his dream in life had changed. In the few years he spent in Lagos, he had heard of how people who traveled abroad were able to amass a lot of wealth in a few years. Moved by his desire to bring his family out of poverty, Kalu took a deep breath and said, "Sir, I'm so grateful for your kindness, but I've always dreamed of traveling abroad, like your children." Julius leaned back in his chair, surprised. "Is that so? And why is that, my boy?" "I want to learn new things, see the world, and maybe find opportunities to help my family even more," Kalu explained, his voice full of hope and determination. "But you are already very good at this business. If you put your mind to it and work hard, you will be surprised at how successful you could become. You and your family will never smell poverty again," his boss said. "I appreciate all that you have done for me, sir. You have treated me like a son, and I will forever be grateful to you. I have served you in all honesty, sir. But please, if I have ever found favor before you, what I really want is to travel abroad and continue my life there. Please, sir, help me achieve this," Kalu pleaded. Julius nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Well, if that's truly what you want, I'll help you achieve that dream." Kalu's eyes widened with disbelief and joy. "Really? Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much." Before embarking on this new adventure, Kalu knew he had to return home. The bus ride to Umunedi seemed much shorter than when he had left. As he walked down the familiar dusty part of his village, his heart pounded with anticipation. His family's small hut came into view, and suddenly his little sister spotted him. "Brother Kalu! Brother Kalu is back!" she screamed with delight, running towards him. Soon, the whole family poured out, surrounding Kalu with hugs and tears of joy. That evening, as they sat around the fire, Kalu shared his adventures, the good and the bad. He told them about Julius, how he served him for 6 years, and how he had accepted to send him abroad. I've come to say goodbye. I promise that once I cross over, I will walk like I have never walked before. I am going to make all of you proud. We will never be referred to as that poor family ever again, Kalu said. His mother's eyes filled with tears. Oh, my son, these past 6 years you left have been the hardest years of my life. If not for the message you sent across, we wouldn't have known that you are still alive. I hate to see you go away from us, but since it is for good, I am consoled. Please, my son, remember where you come from. Do not get involved in any bad thing. My prayers will always cover you, my son. We will miss you terribly, but we are so proud of you, she said. His father nodded solemnly. Yes, my son, but remember that honest work will take you far. Now let me bless you. The land you are going to will favor you. Your doors will be opened. Men and women will favor you. You will succeed in whatever you lay your hands on. And may our ancestors continue to protect you as you make us proud. His father finished. His siblings were all over him, hugging him like it was the last time they were going to see him. Kalu looked at his only brother and held him by his shoulder as he said, Ekene, I'm going to be sending money through you to help our family. Take this phone. I will use it to be communicating with you when I settle down in abroad. Promise me that you will continue to help our parents to make things easy and that you will stay true to our family and carry them along. I promise you, brother, I will not forget what we have been through. I will make you proud, he said. The next morning, as the sun rose over Umunede, Kalu hugged each family member tightly. I promise I'll come back successful, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'll make sure we are never poor again. As Kalu walked away, waving to his family, he felt a mix of sadness and excitement. He was leaving behind everything he knew, but he was also stepping into a world of new possibilities. Back in the city, Julius helped Kalu prepare for his papers and his journey. As Kalu boarded the plane, he thought about how far he had come from the poor village boy who once worked on other people's farms. Thank you for everything, sir. I am forever grateful, Kalu said, shaking his boss's hand and giving him a hug. Kalu smiled warmly. Make us proud, Kalu. And remember, success isn't just about making money. It's about staying true to yourself and helping others. As the plane took off, Kalu looked out the window at the shrinking landscape below. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but he was ready to face them. His journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. As Kalu settled into his new life abroad, he faced challenges he had never imagined. The cold weather bit at his skin, and the unfamiliar language twisted his tongue. But Kalu was determined to succeed, no matter what. He found work wherever he could, often doing jobs that others turned their noses up at. In the dark hours of the morning, Kalu would scrub toilets until they shone, his hands raw from harsh chemicals. It's hard work, he would tell himself, but it's honest work. Later, he would head to the morgue, where he would carefully and respectfully clean the bodies of those who had passed on. Though the work was somber, Kalu found a strange peace in providing this final service. Rest well, he would whisper to each person. Your journey is over, but mine continues. Every month, without fail, Kalu would send money back home to his family. He would picture their smiles as they received the funds, imagining the food they could buy and the clothes they could afford. Soon, he would promise himself, they won't be the poorest family in Umunedi anymore. But back in Nigeria, things weren't going as Kalu had hoped. His younger brother, Ekene, had taken charge of receiving the money. At first, Ekene had been overwhelmed by the responsibility and the amount of money coming in. "Wow," he would whisper, holding the first transfer slip. "This is more than we've ever had." But as the months went by, something changed in Ekene. The money that was meant to help the whole family began to feel like his personal fortune. He started buying new clothes for himself, eating at fancy restaurants, and hanging out with a crowd that cared more about appearances than values. Seeing that Ekene was living a flamboyant life, his mother couldn't help but ask him where he got the money from. "Ekene, has Kalu sent any more money? We need to repair the roof before the rainy season." Ekene's heart raced, but he forced a sad expression. "No, Mama, I haven't heard from Kalu in months. Maybe he has forgotten about us." The lie tasted bitter on his tongue, but the thought of sharing the money was even more unpalatable to Ekene now. "But where did you get all the money you have been spending?" she asked. "There is this friend of mine that recently returned from the city. He is doing very well over there and has promised to take me along when he is going back to the city." Ekene lied. "Which of your friends are you talking about? Because I know all your friends." "You don't know this one, Mama. He was my secondary school friend and does not want people in the village to know that he has made money. So he usually avoids coming out very much or visiting people, which is why you have not seen him. I was lucky to have bumped into him one of the days I was returning from the farm. Now he's going to take me along and I'll be successful just like him too." Ekene continued with the lies. Sensing that his mother was already suspicious and that he couldn't continue with the lie anymore, Ekene packed his bags and moved to the city, leaving his confused and hurt family behind. "I'll send more money when I can," he promised half-heartedly as he left. In the city, Ekene lived large. He rented a flashy apartment, bought designer clothes, and partied every weekend. All the while, his family back in Umunedi struggled, wondering why Kalu had abandoned them. Meanwhile, Kalu worked tirelessly abroad, dreaming of the day he could return home to see how he had improved his family's life. He had no idea that his hard-earned money was being squandered by Ekene, or that his family thought he had forgotten them. While Ekene sipped expensive drinks in city clubs, Kalu scrubbed floors in a foreign land. While in abroad, Kalu witnessed how people were being deported once their visiting papers expired. He knew that he couldn't hide from the authorities forever. He therefore put a call through to Ekene to share his fears with him and inform him of his next plan. Kalu's heart raced as he dialed Ekene's number, his hands shaking slightly. When Ekene answered, Kalu's voice was filled with worry. "Ekene, I am worried. My papers are going to expire soon, and I might be deported any day from now." Ekene's breath caught in his throat. Was this the end of his lavish lifestyle? Kalu continued, unaware of his brother's panic. "I've been saving every penny, Ekene. I'm going to send it all to you. Please, build us a house in the village and one in the city. It's all I have to show for my years of hard work here. Then for the rest, put it in a savings account for me. I will use that and set up a business if I get deported." Ekene's mind raced. This means more money will be coming to him. "Of course, brother," he said smoothly. "I'll take care of everything. Don't worry." As the money poured in, Ekene's eyes gleamed with greed. Instead of fulfilling Kalu's wishes, he continued his extravagant lifestyle, convinced that the money would never stop. To keep up with the charade, Ekene would search online for pictures of construction sites and send them to Kalu. "Look, brother," he would message, "the village house is coming along nicely, and here is the foundation for the city home." Kalu would reply with excitement, his message is full of gratitude and hope. "Thank you, Ekene. I can't wait to see our new homes when I return." But in reality, not a single brick had been laid. The monument for their family's future was being frittered away on parties, designer clothes, and flashy cars. One day, Ekene learned that the apartment building he lived in was up for sale. A plan formed in his mind, a safety net, just in case. He used a large chunk of Kalu's money to buy his 3-bedroom flat. "This is just for me," he thought. "If Kalu ever finds out, at least I'll have somewhere to live." As Ekene signed the papers for his new property, a tiny voice in the back of his mind whispered that what he was doing was wrong, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the sleek kitchen and spacious living room that were now his. Meanwhile, Kalu continued to work tirelessly, dreaming of the day he could return home to the houses he believed Ekene was building. He imagined his parents living comfortably in their twilight years, his siblings having a safe place to call home. "Just a little longer," Kalu would tell himself as he scrubbed yet another toilet or prepared another body in the morgue. "Soon I'll be home, and all this hard work will have been worth it." Little did Kalu know that his dreams were built on sand, and the Ekene's tower of lies was growing taller by the day. The moment of truth was drawing near, and when it arrived, it would shake their family to its foundation. As Ekene lounged in his ill-gotten apartment and Kalu toiled in a foreign land, the clock was ticking. The day of reckoning was coming. The day Kalu had dreaded of finally arrived without warning. As he walked to work on a particular Monday morning, lost in thoughts of home, a group of immigration officers suddenly surrounded him. "Kalu Nnamani," one officer asked sternly. Kalu's heart sank. "Yes, that's me," he replied, his voice barely a whisper. "You are being deported. Come with us." Everything happened so fast. Before Kalu could grasp the situation, he found himself on a plane back to Nigeria with nothing but the clothes on his back, the few dollars in his pocket, and his years of hard work left behind. As the plane touched down in Lagos, Kalu felt a mix of emotions, fear, sadness, but also a glimmer of hope. "At least, I'll see my family again," he thought. Kalu quickly exchanged the money in his pocket for Nigerian naira. He got a small phone and a mobile phone number, which he used to put a call across to Ekene. With trembling fingers, Kalu dialed Ekene's number. When his brother answered, Kalu's voice cracked with emotion. "Ekene, it's me, Kalu. I've been deported. I'm at the airport in Lagos. I know you are probably in the village, so no need to ask you to come and pick me up. I will find my way home somehow. I just wanted to inform you," Kalu said. On the other end of the line, Ekene felt the blood drain from his face. The day he had both anticipated and dreaded had arrived. "Kalu, oh my God, don't bother coming to the village. I will come and pick you up from the airport, since I am in the city at the moment," Ekene lied, his mind racing with panic. He didn't want Kalu to go back to the village and find out the real situation of things. He thought that he could hide the truth forever. As Kalu waited at the airport, hours ticked by. He kept checking the arrivals area, hoping to see his brother's face in the crowd. But Ekene never came. The airport slowly emptied, Night fell. Kalu, exhausted and confused, curled up on a hard plastic chair, his few possessions clutched tightly to his chest. Maybe there was traffic. Maybe Ekene's phone died. He'll be here in the morning, he told himself. But morning came, and still there was no sign of Ekene. Meanwhile, in his lavish apartment, Ekene paced back and forth, consumed by guilt and fear. He knew he should go to the airport, face his brother, and confess everything. But the thought of losing his comfortable life, of facing the consequences of his actions, paralyzed him. I can't do it, he muttered to himself. I can't face him. What have I done? Back at the airport, Kalu finally accepted the bitter truth. No one was coming for him. With a heavy heart, he gathered his courage and what little money he had and decided to make the long journey back to Umunnedi on his own. As he boarded a bus, Kalu's mind was filled with questions. Why hadn't Ekene come? And why was his phone switched off? What about the houses they were supposed to have built? What would he find when he got home? Little did Kalu know that his unexpected return was about to unravel years of deception. The truth was racing towards him, ready to collide with the dreams and hopes he had held on to for so long. As Kalu stepped off the bus in Umunnedi, his heart swelled with anticipation. He imagined his family's faces lighting up at his return, their new home standing proudly as a testament to his years of hard work. But as he walked down the familiar dusty path, his excitement turned to confusion, then to dread. The old family hut came into view, looking even more dilapidated than when he had left. The roof sagged dangerously, and the walls were crumbling. His younger sister spotted him first, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Brother Kalu," she whispered, then shouted, "Mama! Papa! Brother Kalu is back!" His parents emerged from the hut, their faces a mix of joy and weariness. Kalu's heart sank as he took in their appearance. They looked older, more worn down than he remembered. "My son," his mother cried, embracing him. "We thought we would never see you again." As the initial excitement of his return settled, Kalu looked around, bewildered. But where is our new house? And why do you all look so poor?" His father finished, his voice heavy with resignation. "Because we are, my son. We have struggled even more since you left." Kalu felt as if the ground was shifting beneath his feet. "But I've been sending money home for years, for a new house, for food, for everything." His family exchanged confused glances. "Money?" his mother asked. "We haven't received any money, Kalu." "But Ekene," Kalu started, then stopped as realization began to dawn. "Ekene was supposed to be giving you the money I sent, building our new home." His mother spoke up, her voice bitter. "We haven't seen Ekene in months. He moved to the city, said he was making his fortune. We thought you had forgotten us, my son." Kalu's world spun. Years of sacrifice, of back-breaking work, of dreams for his family's better future, all seemingly evaporated in an instant. "No," he whispered, sinking to his knees. "No, this can't be. I sent so much money. There was supposed to be a house here and one in the city. You were supposed to be comfortable, well-fed, happy." His family gathered around him, their own shock and anger mixing with concern for Kalu. "Ekene betrayed us," Kalu's father said softly, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "But you are home now. We'll figure this out together." As the reality of the situation sank in, Kalu felt a storm of emotions: anger at Ekene's betrayal, guilt for not checking on his family directly, and determination to make things right. "I will find Ekene," Kalu said, his voice hardening with resolve. "I'll get our money back. I promise you, I'll make this right." His family nodded, united in their shock and their love for Kalu. As night fell over Umunnedi, the reunited family sat in their old hut, sharing a mega meal and beginning to plan their next steps. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Ekene sat in his luxurious apartment, consumed by fear and guilt, knowing that his web of lies was unraveling. The confrontation he had long dreaded was now inevitable, and the consequences of his actions were about to catch up with him. As Kalu lay awake that night, planning his journey to Lagos, and Ekene tossed and turned in his ill-gotten gains, the future hung in the balance. The truth had finally come to light, but the real test for the family was just beginning. Without thinking it through, Kalu left for the city of Lagos the following day. His intention was to scout the city in search of Ekene. He stood at a crossroads, both figuratively and literally, in the bustling heart of Lagos. The city's chaos mirrored his internal turmoil as he wrestled with his limited options. Should I wander the streets, hoping for a miracle? He muttered to himself, fingering the few naira notes in his pocket. Or return to the village and start my search there? After a restless night, Kalu decided to return to Umunnedi. It was a long shot, but perhaps someone in the village may have heard from Ekene or seen him, he thought. As he walked through the village square, a familiar face caught his eye. It was Obinna, an old schoolmate who had moved to Lagos years ago. "Kalu, is that really you?" Obinna called out, his face lighting up with surprise. Kalu's heart raced. "Obinna, yes, it's me. Listen, I need your help. Have you seen my brother Ekene in Lagos?" Obinna's expression changed, a mix of recognition and unease crossing his face. "Ekene? Yes, I've seen him. We all belong to the Umunnedi social group, Lagos branch. In fact, I know where he lives. Is there any problem?" Kalu could hardly believe his luck. "You do? Obinna, please, you must take me to him. It's urgent." Obinna hesitated for a moment, sensing the tension in Kalu's voice. "All right," he finally agreed. "I'm heading back to Lagos tomorrow. You can come with me." The journey to Lagos felt like an eternity to Kalu. As Obinna drove, Kalu's mind raced with questions, scenarios, and a growing sense of anger and betrayal. Finally, they arrived in a posh neighborhood of Lagos. Obinna pointed to a sleek, modern apartment building. "That's where Ekene lives. Third floor, apartment 3F. Kalu's jaw clenched as he took in the luxurious surroundings. "So this is where my money went," he thought bitterly. He thanked Obinna and stepped out of the car. With a deep breath, Kalu approached the building. His hand shook slightly as he pressed the bell for apartment 3F. Inside, Ekene froze at the sound of the bell. He wondered who could be visiting him at home on a weekday. "Who is it?" Ekene called out, his voice barely steady. "It's me, Ekene. It's Kalu. Open the door." Ekene wished that the ground would open up and swallow him. For a moment, he considered not answering, pretending he wasn't home. But he knew it was too late. He had already spoken, and there was no way he could hide now. With trembling fingers, Ekene unlocked the door. As it swung open, the brothers stood face to face for the first time in years. Kalu's eyes took in Ekene's designer clothes, the expensive furnishing visible behind him. His gaze then locked onto his brother's face, a storm of emotions raging in his eyes. "Hello, brother," Kalu said, his voice low and controlled. "We need to talk." Ekene stepped back, allowing Kalu to enter as the door closed behind them. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Years of lies, betrayal, and shattered dreams hung in the air between them. As Kalu stepped into the lavish apartment bought with Kalu's hard-earned money, Ekene's facade began to crumble. His usual smooth demeanor gave way to nervous laughter and disjointed sentences. "Kalu, brother, what a surprise. How did you, when did you, I'm sorry, I didn't come to pick you up that day at the airport because my car broke down and I had to get a car mechanic who worked on it for 2 days. And then by the time I got to the airport, you were no longer there." Ekene stuttered, his eyes darting around the room, avoiding Kalu's intense gaze. Kalu's voice was steady, but laced with barely contained anger. "Where is the money, Ekene? Where are the houses I asked you to build?" Ekene's mind raced, scrambling for a meaningful explanation. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He forced a wide smile, trying to project confidence. "Ah, brother, you will be so pleased when you hear what I have done," Ekene began, his voice suddenly taking on an enthusiastic tone. "I've invested the money in a big business opportunity. You won't believe how much it has grown." Kalu's eyes narrowed. "Invested? I never asked you to invest anything. I told you to build houses for our family and put the rest in a savings account for me. What investment are you talking about? And what of all those pictures you used to send to me about the houses you were building?" Ekene waved his hand dismissively. "Houses are just buildings, Kalu. But this investment, it has tripled in value. I knew you wouldn't want me to invest in this business, which was why I made up those pictures to calm you down while I grew the money. But just wait until you see how much money we have now." "Show me," Kalu demanded, his patience wearing thin. "I want to see this investment, this tripled money." Ekene's smile faltered for a moment before he recovered. Of course. But you see, the money is tied up in the investment. I will need to contact my business partners to liquidate everything. Give me 2 weeks, and I'll have it all ready for you. You see, brother, you'll be so proud of me." Kalu looked around the luxurious apartment, his suspicion growing. "And this place? Is this where my money went to?" Ekene laughed nervously. "Oh, this? No. This belongs to a friend of mine. He's out of the country, but allowed me to stay here. But you're welcome to stay too. It will just be like old times, eh?" As Ekene spoke, Kalu noticed small details that contradicted his brother's story. Ekene's photos on the wall, his personal items scattered around. But he decided to play along for now. "So, why did you not take care of Mama and Papa and also Amara? Why are they still living in abject poverty? Ekene?" "I was using part of the money to provide food for them. Before I got to know about this investment that has tripled in value, I decided to invest it and make 3 times more so that we can build more houses, cars, and more things than I would have been able to do with only the money you sent," Ekene said. 2 weeks, Kalu said firmly. "I'll stay here, and in 2 weeks, I want to see every naira I sent to you." Ekene nodded eagerly, relief washing over him. "Of course, brother. 2 weeks, you will see, everything will be perfect." As night fell, the brothers retired to separate rooms. Ekene lay awake, his mind racing with schemes to escape the web of lies he had spun. Kalu too remained awake, his eyes roving over the apartment, cataloging every sign of his brother's deception. The next 2 weeks promised to be a tense game of cat and mouse. What would happen when the 2 weeks were up? Could Ekene somehow make good on his promises? Or would his lies finally catch up with him? And how would Kalu react when the full extent of his brother's betrayal was revealed? You will find out in the second part of the story, dropping shortly. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. And as always, please leave a comment for me in the comment section. I love hearing from you. Until I come your way again soon, stay happy.